managing director of the Marion schools, but here I am as a proud steward of the Marion Senior School. I want to acknowledge one of my head teachers, Alice, who was here before me. She's the head teacher of Marion Riverside. I'll quickly go through the points very quickly as I see them. First of all, Marion Senior School, I stopped counting how old we are. I stopped counting how old we are because I started thanking God that we are still in existence. Because every year I hear schools closing down, secondary schools. Secondary chapter, we were told that 200 secondary schools had closed. 200, not 20, how many? Across the country. And from then on, I changed my whole conversation about private secondary schools and about my school. And every year, when we open and our school is still in existence, I thank God. How many of you feel like that? It's another year of faith, isn't it? I also learned along the way to run my school through faith, not through fear. Because sometimes we get paralyzed by fear. We hear something changing and new something has come in the education sector, and we just start thinking, oh my God, we are finished. Okay? So I learned to start running my schools, especially the senior school, through faith and not through what? Through fear. It's a good day to give stories. I'm hearing people are giving stories. So allow us to give us my story, our story at the Marion Senior School. We started the Marion Senior School by default. It looked like it was by default, but God knew it was by design, isn't it? But for us, it was by default. My sister, who was running the Marion Institute, a very successful interior design and graphic design college at that point, decided that she wanted to join politics. And she had put up a building with 6 rooms, very large rooms. If you've come to our senior school, the rooms look ridiculously big. There was supposed to be a college. And so when she changed her career path from running a successful Marion Institute into politics, we were left with a building in the middle of our school. All right, so when we did a bit of brainstorming, we decided, well, we can start what? A high school. We are already hearing some people have ventured there. We can just try following them a little bit behind and see whether we can learn something from them. My father, the late Samuel Mbogwa, he wanted Kianda. He wanted a Kianda school because he had sent me to Kianda and he thought it was just the best school in the world. Kianda is an excellent school. But if you ask me, there are some things that they missed out. And those are the things I try to balance in my school, in my high school. It's a very good school, but my father didn't know any better. He said Kianda. So he wanted to start a girls' day school. When we had our meeting with our parents and asked them and told them we want to start a girls' day school, you can imagine there are parents of boys who are there and they told us, so where are we going to take our boys? So in that meeting, the whole thing changed. From girls' day school, it became mixed. And those parents who told us they were going to bring us their boys and girls, we have never seen them after today. They promised us they are going to bring us both their boys and girls, and we didn't see. We didn't see them. That's why I learned another lesson that I share with directors. Please remember, God gave us the vision. He did not give who? The parents. So when you run our schools based by what the parents are telling you, we have abdicated our God-given vision, and we have decided our schools are being run by who? By parents. And when we were stuck there as Marion, we really had difficulties. Because parents change their minds every time depending on their own interests, isn't it? So to cut the long story short, we decided we were going to do, personally now me, at that time I was the manager, I decided I want a boys' school, a boys and girls' school, so that whatever I went through as a girl, in a girls' school only, I could correct. I don't believe I was holistically prepared for life. I wasn't prepared to deal with boys. So the first boy who told me, I love you, I fell head over heels with him. And I thought heaven had come down. All right? Later on, we will tell you what happens when you have that. So I said I would want to have a school where I transit girls and boys naturally. All right? Because I couldn't figure out how come boys and girls can learn together for about 13 years in my school, my primary school, isn't it? Assuming they came in beginner class, 3 years in beginner class, 8 years in primary, that is 11 years. How come they can comfortably sit for 11 years and learn comfortably? And then come the month of December, suddenly they cannot learn when they are together. In 4 weeks. Suddenly they cannot. And those hormones started behaving themselves when? They didn't start then. When did they start? They started in standard 6. So I changed the whole that, and I thought, let's do a mixed school. I wanted a mixed day school because personally I believe in day schools. I believe in day schools. I went through day schools, and I believe as a person who trains parenting that we need day schools. Children need to be at home for as far as they can. All right? When we did that, we didn't get anybody coming. So for almost 2 years, we had a school there, and there was nobody coming because parents in Kenya, again, don't believe in them. That's why one of the things I'm loving right now is that probably now parents will start thinking twice about day schools because of the free secondary. Now, let me go as somebody who has a primary school. How many of us have primary schools here and high school? So that I know who I'm talking to. Then you'll agree whether it's the same problem you went through. The first thing that I went through when we started our high school is that I coined a word. We had brand pollution. Say brand pollution. Brand pollution. That is what our secondary school did. Our brand already in primary and secondary school was very good. Suddenly when we did our high school and we did our first KCSE and we were very excited with the results, suddenly they said, no, this is not like Marion. Because when they look at our primary school, our students get A, and B, B's. Then you come to the secondary school where you're getting a mean score of C+ and you are over the moon. Because you know all of them are university material. So that is the first thing that I think our primary schools have a problem. In fact, I remember somebody telling me that he had started a high school and had not called it the same name. So that he can avoid what? Brand pollution. So if instead of calling it Marion Senior School, I had called it Martha, Teresa something, nobody would have connected Marion with what? And so it would have been allowed to continue without undue pressure. So that's the first thing that primary schools directors get into. The other thing is, in the secondary school, when children are coming to your primary school and kindergarten, it's the parents who decide. Am I right? But when they're coming to high school, who decides? Most probably, it's the students. Although they're trying to now educate the parents so that they also make a choice. The way we have now, especially in my school, it's the children who decide which secondary school they are going to. They've already done the research. They have talked to their friends. They know in which school they don't have pocket money and where they have whatever. They know everything. My own son, because at the time we were starting our high school, my son and my daughter were in our primary school. My son said, Mom, I want to go to a high school where there is no family member. Because I have grown in a school where I am related. When I look around it, there is Shosho, there is Buka, there is Mami, there is Daddy, there is uncles, there is cousins. I want to go to a school where there is no what? To experience how to be in a secondary school where there is no what? Relations. That was my story. I don't know how many of you had your children who have refused to go to your high school. How many of you? You probably have your own stories. They refused. My second born, my last born, McKenna, I almost got it right. McKenna was in love with the Marion Senior School. She actually came and said, Mom, I just love senior school. In fact, the only problem with senior school is that you have no uniform for trousers. That time we didn't have trousers. So I told her, McKenna, don't worry, as soon as you come, we will start what? Wearing trousers. Because I was too excited that this child is wanting to come to Marion Senior School. What I didn't know, and what many of you may not know, that as you are busy selling your high school to the children in standard 8, somebody is very busy telling them, no. My daughter, who had already chosen our school, was being told by the class teacher, McKenna, you are not material for private schools, number one, and you are not material for Marion Senior. In my same school, and I realized that me, I am convinced about Marion Senior School, but who needs to be convinced? The standard 8 teachers. So right now, and Alice, go and make sure in the retreat I repeat it, I'm about to make it summary dismissal issue. If they push me. And what I told them, I remember there was a time my head teacher stood in front of parents and talked about, oh, many of our children go to Alliance. I asked them, do you think Alliance needs you to market for it? Does it need any other person to market for it? Alliance, even with all the crazy things that happened recently, is still the school of what? Of choice. So why you in my school that I have a senior school, what business do you have to market what? However, do you know why that is very difficult if you have a primary school? Because you're confused. You want to sell that your top students went to Alliance, which is minor, because you want to make sure your primary school is still doing what? And what is happening, what I realized, that the teachers are watching me. They had never had me talk about senior school in public. Never. So who are they imitating? Me. Because I'm a network marketing, I realized I have to be a product of the product. So I started literally now talking about senior school, and I'm telling you it was scary. Because it was very unfunny. Because you're telling people to come to senior school, why? You tell them how much fees you're charging, they ask you, is that per year? Or per the whole 4 years? Are you getting? Why would we pay 80,000 shillings per term? You get, is it university? And then they ask you for what? And you know you have to answer. So you cannot be talking about that they go to university because they can tell the percentage, they are public. In general, they have had 70% of our students qualifying for university. But what do the parents see? Do they see the people who have gone to university? They look they look at the list from down where? Down there. So it had to start with us. And once I started doing that, I started now seeing my leaders being able to stand in front of parents and talk about senior school. The other thing is that thing that is called secondary school selection. Let me ask you, is it mandatory for you for the child to pick all is it 6 schools? How many schools they do? How many nationals? 4. Is it mandatory for them to fill all 4? Is it mandatory? What happens if they choose 1 and the 4 is returned? Does it become a spoiled vote? I remember sitting when I sit in the county education board, and I remember principals saying they are so fed up with private secondary schools who list down schools that they know very well that their children are not going to go to. But the computer picks them because they are written, isn't it? And then they are left with these empty spaces because the parent knew very well, if my child is not going to Precious Blood, they are definitely not going to school number 2, 3, or 4. In fact, usually you don't even know school number 4 very well. Very well. So I want to say it starts with who? People must see that we are comfortable about our schools. I have a sister who says, if you would listen to Betty talking about the Marion Senior School, you would think there is no other school in the whole of this country. That's when I knew I have finally reached where I'm supposed to be. And once I reach there, now my teachers can continue, and now they are actually literally looking for students. Before it was just whose problem? The director and her issue. We were not even consulted anyway as teachers. Now I have a team of teachers right now, November and December, literally looking for who? Students. So what have I done? Because I have become comfortable talking about my school, they have had the advantages of private education. Now they can do what is called copy and paste. So I don't have to be everywhere. The other thing I have done, I learned this in my organization, and it's a biblical principle. If you help somebody fulfill their dreams, God will help you fulfill yours. If you help somebody fulfill their dreams, God will help you fulfill yours. So this thing of panicking about your numbers, forget about your numbers. Go and help Mr. Boro of Kwanabu fill his school. That's what I tell my teachers now. Go and help Mrs. Kiagiri fill her. Talk about there's a day school somewhere, as we are mixed there and boarding, but if you just one day, go to Mrs. Kiagiri. A few weeks ago, I sent my standard 7, how many standard 7s? 70s, my whole standard 7 class. I took them to her school for a camp that we do every year for standard 7s. And I chose what? Her school. Why? So that they have another image of what? So that when they arrive in that school they think is the best, they will have another image in their mind to say that the one I left called Acacia Senior, it was not in the list, but this school that I have ended up here, that I'm running Jiri, it doesn't have the image that I left where. So you play what? You expose them to those schools. They need to hear about the schools and they need to see the schools. So one of the things that I do, and I do with my team, we identify schools and we do what? We partner with them. We partner with them. If they have primary school, what happens that we end up having an exchange program? Because many students want to have a change in secondary school. I am trying to kill that narrative. Who say you cannot be in the same school until TVET? Is there anybody place that says you don't have? The new curriculum now, you can actually have a TVET in the same compound and have a child from kindergarten to what? So we just have to be the people breaking this paradigm. This thing that people must move. Like now we have the new curriculum. You have standard 7 and 8 in the same compound, Mrs. Kiagiri and I, isn't it? If you don't have a high school, let me take my friend Regina. She doesn't have a high school. She's going to reach standard 6. Can you imagine her losing standard 7 and 8? Because she doesn't have a what? Are you getting? So what will happen? They'll transit in the same school. Why can't they transit in the same school all the way until Form 4? And if you have a TVET college, why can't they transit in the same? So some of these things just need us to break barriers. Just break the box and throw it away. All right? Just start thinking differently. The other thing I want you to say is that we need to identify that parent that Mr. Boro was talking about. I looked at it this way. I'm looking for a parent like Mrs. Kimani. Mrs. Kimani as a parent believed in private. We made a decision with my husband. Our children are going to go private all the way. So if you don't have that in your mind, probably you will not going to attract those parents. If you are still stuck with the original mind of Mr. Boro, where your own biological children, you want them to go to Alliance quietly, isn't it? But you're standing up saying no. And if you don't have children anymore, who are the other children? Your nieces and your nephews. Anybody in your network, get them to know it is okay to go from private kindergarten, private primary, private secondary, and private university. I coined the phrase exchange program when we started our secondary school chapter, and we said we must reverse the exchange program. The exchange programs happens when the private primary child crosses over to the public secondary, and then the public primary ends up where? In a private secondary. That's the exchange program. And it has been going on for very, very long. So if we don't intentionally change it to our advantage, it's not going to go away by itself. The other thing I've noticed for those who have primary schools, if you go to my primary school at this time, you ask the standard 4s and 5s which high school they want to go to, they will tell you very quickly Marion Senior. Because that's the only one they know. The teachers have not come to tell them about other stories, isn't it? So that is where you catch them. That is where you catch them, because they have already seen Marion Senior, so they know they're going to Marion Senior. But now we don't realize that as the years are going by, when they go to standard 6 and 7, who starts talking about other secondary schools? The teachers. So that's where you catch them. You get that parent who can afford your fees, and you also know that this parent can afford even private universities. You want that person who wants to go to Strathmore, to Riara, isn't it? Or the parallel programs are still around? Are they still around with these changes? Or that. So that you need to identify and profile that parent. And then look for that parent very seriously. Because that's the parent who will understand what we are doing, what we are talking about. The other thing I want to say, something I was told by Governor Waidaka of Nyahururu Elite, when things were really tough, we started at the same time, and it was really tough. We started both of us as co-ed schools, then he separated the boys and the girls. But I remember he told me something which may help somebody else here. Don't quit. Don't quit. Because there will come a time when the people who didn't quit will form the top layer of secondary schools. Like for example, in the primary section, we all look up at the people who started those days when nobody believed in private primary, isn't it? The Mrs. Kiagiris, the Riaras, the McKinleys, are you getting? The St. Nicolases, they're all up there. Because they paid the price. So right now what we are doing, we are paying the price. And when the breakthrough comes, we will be at the top level. We will be holding the hands of those as now who want to come now, because we have cleared the what? So please remember, winners don't quit and quitters don't. The other thing is, please write the word why in capital letters on your book somewhere. And write why to the 4th level. Why to the 4th level. And I want a volunteer. I have just learned this thing, by the way. There's a seminar going on family businesses at Windsor. It was powerful. Come. You're a director here? Elimu? Yeah, you're a director. Let me just give this an example. You're a director, madam? Yes, stand up. I just want to show you what you're going to go when you go home. You were told in your family business, in this case, in your business, you have to answer why to the 4th level. Why to the 4th level? For example, Fanis, why did you start Njoro Precious? To nurture the girls. Why? Why do you want to nurture girls?
Because I believe somebody brought me up in a way that there's a deficiency and I wanted to fill it.
Why do you want to fill the deficiency?
Because I realize elsewhere they're not getting it.
I can't ask her why now, isn't it? So that has stopped. So what is her real why? There's a gap. So is she going to stop? Is she going to close down her school as long as that gap is still to be filled? Whether the money is not making sense, the children are not making sense, the discipline has come, people want to ban your schools, are you going to close down your school? Until when? The gap is? So do you see her school is touching humanity and eternity? Is it going to stop? It's probably going to be generational. Clap for her. Elimu TV, why did you start your school?
I started my school because there is a gap between the transition of primary school to secondary. There are about over 300,000.
Why did you want to bridge the gap?
I wanted to bridge the gap because there is a need.
If that need is met, you'd have to change the business of schools and look for something else to do. See, there's a difference there. What about you? You're a Marion searcher. Why did you start your school?
The passion of education.
Why do you have a passion for education?
Because it improves value in life. We notice that at least, like I say, it's identified a gap. There's always been a gap in education. The population is growing, but the schools are not growing at the rate of the population.
Okay. So, thank you. Let's acknowledge her. So, what is the why? Because once the why is there, we are not going to be shaken. I know Mr. Mboro is passionate about the boy child. So until the issues of the boy child are addressed, he's going to what? Going to be in existence. I want to give another story that I love sharing. Many of us will take almost any child who comes, as long as they can pay your fees probably, or sometimes we have a bursary, isn't it? I was so used to getting children with week 300s, even 200s for a very long time. Then one day, one boy called Israel, who was a top student in the Marion preparatory, had gone to Starehe school, came back looking for a space in my school. And I went into panic mode. Because I told my staff, now is when we are going to show the world that the only reason we don't have all those string of A's is because we do not get the material that is. So that's what we tell them. Everybody who's at 400, 350 doesn't want to come to your school because they've been called, isn't it? And I remember that was a time that we confirmed that as soon as we start getting better grades, it is possible for us to also produce the A's. In the meantime, we are going to do value addition because that's what we have left for now, isn't it? In the meantime, but my challenge is, if you got that A you are looking for, are you absolutely sure that the A would remain a what? An A. Because sometimes you can get stuck Unless you have said, as I heard somebody say, unless you have said, I don't want the 400s. I know there's some schools that say they don't want 400s, isn't it? Unless you have said that. For the rest of us who take all the grades, all right, are we sure that if you got that A, that you have not become so comfortable with your 200 material, that when the A comes, we will actually spoil it, okay? So I think once in a while it's good to ask the Lord to bring us those higher level ones, just to test the what? Just to test the whatever. There is also something else I believe, and it is my personal belief. It is not written anywhere. I have not read it anywhere. It's my personal belief. In schools that were started by first generation, my experience is that if you go to secondary school, you probably need to have the next generation right in the middle of that school. Because most probably, you will not understand what these kids are talking about. There'll be a generation of what? Yes. If our secondary school had been run by my parents, I am sure there would be issues serious. Because half the time they don't even know what these people are high on. You know, they're still stuck with what? Alcohol and banging. They have no idea about the drug. The drug. Are you getting? They don't even know how to connect to the children. All they'll do, my mom will keep telling them, please get saved. You know, if you don't get saved, your life is going nowhere. And then people are just looking at her, hey, our lives are going, they're okay, so we are good. Are you getting? So my belief is that if you are starting a school, you must have either yourself, for those of us who have family businesses, or your teachers must be able to connect with who? With those students. Because they are way ahead of us in some areas. Way ahead of us. Sometimes you won't even understand what they're talking about. You have to go back and talk to Google to understand what they have just said. Their language is different, their issues are different. So I have found that the same person who was successful in the first generation may not always be the person to start secondary schools. Do you agree? Yes. Like for example, I remember the first time I started, because we are a mixed school, we get a lot of students who are being excluded from the other schools. For example, they're having issues with homosexuality or lesbianism. And the first time I had that, it was just a strange thing. Some of these things you just hear about them. You don't think you can see them face to face. You get? And I remember my daughter telling me, Mom, it's not even fashionable nowadays to be homosexual and lesbian. The fashion is to be bisexual. Now me, I'm going crazy. I'm hitting the roof and I'm in shock. I'm going to prayer and fasting. Because I have received a child who has been told the only way you can correct this confusion of yours is to go to a mixed school. And then I am being told, it's bisexual, you do both. Now you tell me, my mom, what is she going to do with that child? It's going to break her completely, isn't it? Completely. All right, so that's my belief system. All right. The last thing, Marion Senior School, just a little bit about Marion Senior School. I have a group of directors that I have requested one-on-one. Some of you, I'm sure I have not done it. I have requested that if you come to a point in your school where you have to exclude a child, you know that time, and it usually happens November, December, you just know who you, I am not having him back in my school. All right, I have requested directors, especially the ones personally known to me, and now I'm asking those who are here, even those we have not met, that if you reach a point and you have to exclude that boy or girl, kindly do that parent one last favor. Help that parent get a school for that child. Because otherwise these children go into the society feeling rejected, and it becomes so hard when they end up in a school. They have come with a spirit of what? Rejection. The parents are confused. They have gone to 5 schools. They have been told no. And yet the children must go to school, isn't it? So they're going to end up in our schools. So when I tell those directors, if you've reached the end and you have to exclude them, please bring them to the Marion Senior School. Tell them, call me and tell me you're referring a person to the Marion Senior School. These are the issues. Because for us, the Marion Senior School is first and foremost a ministry. First and foremost, a ministry. We are interested first in the spiritual relationship and the emotional health of the child. The academic will follow. Because we all know that verse that says what? Seek ye first. And what will happen? All the the rest will be what? Be added unto you. Thank you for listening to me. Thank you so much.